Hello students, welcome to Dr.Deepa Dahake's NEET Biology, and in today's session we discuss about the third chapter of class 12, and in today's session we mainly study about the role of accessory glands and the hormonal control of the process of spermatogenesis. Though we are not studying yet the process of spermatogenesis, but first we study about the hormonal control. Secondly, when you ask the question, some of the children are asking some questions regarding the topic beyond the limit. So no need to ask such questions beyond the limit. You strictly go through your NCERT books and whatever things are provided in that NCERT, because the board exams as well as NEET exams are strictly based on the NCERT syllabus. So whatever, if you feel any doubt, again repeatedly in every session I am saying, if you feel any doubts and difficulty, so you go through the NCERT, and in NCERT syllabus if you feel any doubts and difficulty, so you can kindly ask those difficulty and doubts. So let's begin with the today's session. Accessory glands हमने study किया था. When we study about the accessory glands, three types of glands we study, that seminal vesicle, prostate gland as well as the bulbourethral gland. So today first we study what are the secretions of these glands. So first when we come towards accessory glands, they are comes under the accessory part or the secondary part of the reproductive organs or secondary organs in male reproductive system. The first accessory gland you remember is seminal vesicle. When we come towards seminal vesicle, so here you remember is paired gland. Secondly, leaf shape structure, structurally similar or the shape is similar with the leaf, and present at base of urinary bladder. This part you remember. When we come towards the secretions, so for secretion you remember, secretion of the gland is slightly alkaline, pH you remember 7.4 pH. pH mainly you remember for the objective exam. So the seminal vesicles releases the secretion. These secretions are slightly alkaline, that is 7.4 in pH, and nearly the fluid of seminal vesicle form 60% volume of seminal plasma. This part you remember. Now the two important chemicals present in the secretion of seminal vesicle, that first you remember fructose, and the second is one hormone is there, that is prostaglandin. So this part you remember, the prostaglandin and fructose. Fructose is the sugar which is only present in human being. If the fructose detection, you go through the biochemical analysis of the human body. So fructose you remember, fructose is only present in the secretion of the seminal vesicle, and that's why it is only secreted in human males. Next, the second gland we study. The second gland is called as prostate gland, and in terms of number you remember, this is large single gland. Secondly, its secretion are slightly acidic in nature. So acidic pH is there. So they are acidic in nature. pH you remember nearly 6.5 pH. This acidic nature is mainly due to presence of citric acid as well as secretion also contain calcium ions, and these calcium ions you remember required for the motility or movement of the spermatozoa. So prostate gland you remember is the second gland, and now we come towards the third gland. That third gland you remember, the third gland of the human male reproductive system as an accessory gland is bulbourethral gland, or it is also called as Copper's gland. Again for this gland you remember, this is also paired gland. Secretion slightly alkaline, mucus secretion is mainly, and some of the enzyme as such this gland mainly related with the secretion of mucus like substances and alkaline in nature. Secretions are alkaline in nature. So these three glands you remember major role is of the seminal vesicle. Now after that we are not discussing about the external genitalia. You on your own go through the external genitalia part. Then we come towards the hormonal regulation of the male reproductive system, that how does the spermatogenesis take place. When we come towards the spermatogenesis and hormonal regulation, so at the onset of puberty or at the age of puberty you remember the process of spermatogenesis begins, and in this process you remember predominantly when we come towards the hormones. So hormones you remember here, hormones are predominantly two types of hormones are there, and that is luteinizing hormone LH and the follicle stimulating hormone FSH. Both hormones you remember, both these hormones are produced by pituitary gland, anterior pituitary you can say. So simply you remember these are the pituitary gland, and this pituitary gland for the secretion of these LH and FSH predominantly you remember under control of the hypothalamus. So directly you can remember the hypothalamus provide a message to pituitary gland, and in response to hypothalamus pituitary gland start to produce these two hormones LH and FSH. Now what is the role of LH and FSH? On what kind of cell LH is activated as well as FSH start its activity, that we will study in the form of graphical presentation. So here we study how the LH and FSH play significant role in the hormonal regulation of spermatogenesis. So first here you pay attention that onset of puberty, at the time of spermatogenesis hypothalamus is play key role, and this hypothalamus is responsible for the secretion of GnRH, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone. The students who are not known about GnRH, they kindly go through the class 11 last 22nd chapter where you study about the role of pituitary. So over there GnRH role is provided. So hypothalamus is responsible for the release of gonadotropin releasing hormone. This gonadotropin releasing hormone activate on anterior pituitary. This part you remember, the activate on anterior pituitary, and in response to GnRH, this anterior pituitary gland or the lobe of anterior lobe of the pituitary gland start to release the two hormones, that is luteinizing hormones and follicle stimulating hormones, FSH and LH. This part you remember. Now LH you remember, three types of cells we study. One, we study about the germ cells of the seminiferous tubule. Second, in between germ cells or at a specific distance in between germ cells, the Sertoli cells are present. And the third type of cells you study, the cells which are present in interstitial space, those are called as Leydig cells or interstitial cells. So here you remember the LH is also called as interstitial cell secreting hormone or ICSH, interstitial cell secreting hormone. This LH you remember. Now this LH activate on L you remember for Leydig cell. So it activate on Leydig cells, or the Leydig cells are also called as interstitial cell. So Leydig cell or they activate on interstitial cell, whereas follicle stimulating hormone or FSH activate Sertoli cells. In response to LH, Leydig cells start to produce male androgen, that is called as testosterone. So male androgen, or you remember testosterone, and these testosterone or male androgen is mainly responsible for the process of spermatogenesis. So the process of spermatogenesis begins in human beings. This part you remember very well. Now the activated Sertoli cells, these activated Sertoli cells responsible for the secretion of two types of hormones. One is commonly called as ABP, or you remember it is called androgen binding protein, and this androgen binding protein is required for increased concentration of testosterone. So here you remember the testosterone which is to be increases, that's concentration or it become more concentrated in presence of androgen binding protein. So for increasing concentration of testosterone as well as this ABP is also required for the process of spermiogenesis. When we discuss about the spermatogenesis, then at that time we also discuss about the spermiogenesis phenomena. So for the process of spermiogenesis, ABP or androgen binding protein is required. The another negative hormone is there, that is inhibin. Inhibin, you remember, inhibin also released by the Sertoli cells, and this inhibin is activate or responsible for the feedback inhibition. Feedback inhibition means this inhibin in reverse direction move and it gives the negative feedback. Negative feedback is developed when the sufficient amount of spermatozoa are formed. After that, the inhibin is start to released by the Sertoli cell, and this inhibin again give message to hypothalamus. So in response to negative feedback, hypothalamus stop to release gonadotropin releasing hormone. Because of that, the pituitary gland stop to take a message from the hypothalamus, and in response to negative feedback of the inhibin or the one of the hormone of Sertoli cell, you remember the entire process, that is the secretion of LH and FSH is stopped, and because of that the entire process of spermatogenesis is automatically stopped. So for objective purpose, if you prepare, because this topic is mostly important for the objective purpose, generally in theory only the name of hormones and the cells are asked. So LH, you remember, LH and FSH both are secreted by the anterior pituitary, but here you remember mainly the Leydig cells or interstitial cells are under control of LH hormone. The Sertoli cells are under control of FSH. Male androgen is mentioned in NCERT. Male androgen means, you remember, testosterone. Steroid hormones hai aapke. So testosterone, you remember, it responsible for spermatogenesis. This ABP or androgen binding protein of Sertoli cell, one side it required for the increased concentration of testosterone, and secondly it required for the process of spermiogenesis. This much part you remember for the hormonal regulation. If you targeted for the NEET exam, so you very well prepared this hormonal control of male reproductive system, the pH of fluids released from the accessory glands, as well as whatever we study about the male reproductive system in previous session, that you prepared very well. With this, I sum up my today's session, because now we will begin with the female reproductive system first. So over there we first discuss about the structure of female reproductive system, and in female reproductive system predominantly we discuss about the structure of ovary, because the entire process of oogenesis predominantly deals with the various layers of the ovary. So that we will discuss in our next session. Up to that, you stay connected with my channel, and secondly, if you feel any doubts and difficulty, beginning mein hi kaha hai, so you feel free to ask those doubt and difficulty, not only from this chapter, from any another chapter also you can ask. And the students who are new for the session, they kindly go through the previous session also, and if you like the videos, like the content, whatever I taught in previous session, so you kindly subscribe my channel, like my videos, share my videos, and up to next session, stay motivated, stay blessed and work hard.